And on this second video, we're continuing our discussion of the comma splice. And on this third example, you'll notice we have a comma splice. In 3 hours, we knitted only 2 pounds of shrimp. Because the shrimp were quite small, we used them for shrimp salad. Now, this is actually not a compound sentence, it's a compound complex sentence, and you'll understand why. We have first this independent clause. In 3 hours, we knitted only 2 pounds of shrimp. Okay, so that's one sentence. And then we have our second sentence. Now, this is a complex sentence. We open up with because. Remember, because is one of those subordinating conjunctions listed right here. That automatically makes it a dependent clause. So right here, we have because the shrimp were quite small, comma, we use them for shrimp salad. So this is the dependent clause attached to an independent clause because it has the subject and the verb. Now the comma splice is right here because we have two sentences coming together. This is a compound complex sentence, but right now it's a comma splice because of this comma. Now there's different ways, again, you could correct it. You could do an and there. Okay, that would correct it. You could put a semicolon to correct it. You could also put a period and correct it. Okay, there's different ways to correct this comma splice. Just remember though, if you ever have two sentences coming together, there cannot be just a comma that comes between them. It either has to have a comma in a conjunction or change that comma to a semicolon or make it two different sentences. Now, I want you to get a chance to kind of practice with finding run-ons and comma splices, and I have for you right here, you have essentially a whole list, 19 different run-ons that my students have made this semester. So this is 4 classes worth of students' run-ons. Now sadly, this is not all of them. These are just, I tried to find similar types so you could kind of get a feel of what run-ons were. Now what I'd like for you to do is I'm going to scroll up. Okay, so you have this first 10, okay? I want you to pause the video and take just a few minutes to recognize the run-ons and kind of think to yourself how you could correct them, okay? And pause it, and then I'm going to come back and have the run-ons all highlighted for you so you can see if you recognize the run-ons. So take just a moment. Okay, so hopefully you were able to look through these first 10 sentences and find the run-ons fairly easily. Now, I went ahead and highlighted the first run-on here. So again, remember the run-ons are where you have two sentences coming together. I never struggle with essays or research papers. Okay, that's the first sentence. It has always come second nature to me. Okay, that's the second one. Try to think about how you could correct that. Maybe a semicolon. Okay, you might want to even have a semicolon, however, comma. You could even do comma and. There's different ways to do it. Also, I'm going to go through and highlight some of these others. As I'm highlighting these, I want you to think about how you could correct all of these. Now, I want you to also notice most of these have conjunctions, and these students have just forgotten to put what in front of them? A comma. All of these I'm highlighting so far, they have the coordinating conjunction, the fanboy, they just forgot to put the comma, okay? I mean, the majority of these, there's going to be 19 of these sentences total, and 16 out of the 19 had these types of run-ons where you have the conjunction, but you just fail to put the comma. So please do not have these types of run-ons where you have the conjunction, the fanboy, but you forget to put the comma in front of it. So just take a moment, look through these, see if you found them, and also think of the different scenarios of the ways that you could fix them. Okay, so take just a moment. Okay, so let's look at the next set. Now, again, we already looked at the first 10, so we're going to look at 11 through 19 now. So take a moment, read through these sentences, and try to find the run-ons. And I'm going to pause it for just a moment, and you can look for your run-ons. Okay, so hopefully you got enough time to look through those next few sentences, and I've highlighted number 11 where the run-on is. And again, I'm just going to go down and highlight all of the run-ons so you can see where those were, and try to figure out the best way to correct all of these different run-ons. Now, you may see a sentence that you actually were the individual who committed the run-on. You know, you made the error, but some of these are your classmates. I mean, it's a very common error, and I want you to avoid these. And again, you'll notice the majority of these were where the conjunction's there, but not the comma. This one, of course, is a little different. You have the end of the sentence and the beginning of the sentence. So not all of them are that way. And I did want to mention with this one, number 17, you need a comma here because it's a run-on, but also this student missed a comma after the transitional phrase. So there were actually 2 commas missing in that one, okay? And let's look at this one. Right here, this is also one, and you have this sentence and the next one. And it gets tricky when you get to these longer sentences with the compound complex. It's harder to find. Read the sentences out. Also, you may want to read the sentence after the conjunction to see if you can find it. If there's no conjunction, you may need to just read the whole sentence and pause, or you think there should be a pause. And then finally, number 19. This was what I called the double whammy. It actually has 2 run-ons. Okay, right here, there need to be a comma. This is understood you, like it's implied, like you put an argumentative or informative essay in my lap, and then you need a comma here, comma, and I forgot my name. So that's 2, okay? Now, there also are some comma splices. Now, honestly, y'all had more run-ons than comma splices, but you still need to know the difference between these 2 errors. So these were comma splices that were in your diagnostic essays. So I'm going to ask you to pause for a moment, okay? And try to find the errors and see if you can come up with ways to correct them. So I'm going to pause for a moment. Okay, now you're going to notice I went ahead and highlighted where the comma splice is. Okay, you need to get in the habit of looking for those commas that do not belong, that they need to either have something with them like a conjunction, or they need to be revised as a semicolon. So I'm going to go through and highlight all the comma splices. Again, you want to avoid comma splices as well as run-ons in your writing. Most of these, you could just add a conjunction with them, make one of the clauses dependent. You could also make it a period or a semicolon. There's different ways that you could correct all of these. Just get into the habit of proofreading and looking at your sentences. And you'll notice right here, these last 2, these should have been semicolons, okay? They didn't need commas. Now, they need commas after the transitional word, but not before. Those need to be semicolons. So hopefully you can look through these and think about what would be the best way to correct these. And remember, there's those 5 different ways to correct a run-on. You can add a period, make 2 different sentences. You can add a comma and a coordinating conjunction, any of the fanboys. You can add a semicolon. Okay, you can add a semicolon with a transitional word or phrase, or you can make one of the sentences a dependent clause and make it a complex sentence. So think about the best solution to your errors that you find in your writing, whether your test essays or any writing assignment this semester. But just please make sure proofread. And again, I've mentioned this before, when you proofread your test essay, you may want to read it from the last paragraph up to the first paragraph and read it from the last sentence. Read it backwards. Okay, you're focusing more on the sentence and not the paragraph itself. But look for those. Anytime you use a conjunction, those fanboys, look before and after it. If there's a sentence before and after, you know you're going to have comma. Okay, now I have other resources here for you for run-ons that I hope you will find helpful. Now, I highly encourage you before you take your grammar quiz, okay, do not take the grammar quiz right off the bat. Listen to all these lessons and videos, but you may want to take a practice quiz. Right here, the L Grammar Bites. If you click on this, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it and show you. I have to click on the link. Okay, there are 5 different interactive exercises. Just click on it and it's going to give you essentially an exercise to practice run-ons as well as comma splices. There's also some other things as well. I know some of you just don't have problems with commas with run-ons and comma splices. You just have comma problems, period. So you're going to notice I added some other things that deal with just commas as a whole. And you're going to notice beneath week 5, there's whole sections on commas, okay? So comma rules, there's videos 1 and 2. Grammar Bites has an interactive comma quiz. There's also a grammar packet. It talks about all different types of comma rules as well as punctuation rules. And there's all kinds of websites Also, there's other self-tests that I've listed here for you, M and N, that you can take as well. Just practice as much as possible before you actually take the quiz this week. Well, hopefully this review of run-ons and comma splices has been helpful. As always, if you ever need any more information on these errors, I'll be happy to offer you some more. I can email you worksheets that you can do. Some of them are notes and worksheets that you can do on your own. Also, feel free to go to the Learning Lab and get more handouts. They sometimes have more supplemental handouts than I can find online because things are sent to them as the lab. So please try to visit one of the lab instructors or contact me for more information on these major errors. And as a whole, avoid them, okay? And proofread to avoid them. Well, it's been a pleasure this week. Hopefully this will be helpful, and I look forward again to reading y'all's first test essay. Thank you.